And I am so excited about this evening. When I embarked on this journey to start helping people on a completely different industry, use my experience, use my skills that I've acquired over the years, I really honestly didn't know how I was going to package it and how I was going to present it and how I was going to use it. And one of the things I often thought about was maybe I should put it down on a piece of paper and share it with someone and they can get to read it. And I never got that far to actually do it. And this evening is really, 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 really a very special evening. So first of all, I want to say welcome to everyone that's here for the very first time. This is a platform for mental health professionals to tune in on a weekly basis. It is also a platform that we use for anybody that wants to get a bit of inspiration, that wants to recharge their batteries. And this week we have an incredibly special speaker. This lady so graciously accepted our invitation to come and share some of the thoughts this evening, and also what has she done, what she has done over the years to not just take someone's message that they know is inside of them, take all their experiences, take everything that they stand for, all their values, all their beliefs, put it on a piece of paper, and then at the same time also help them to earn from that, which is really, really special. So guys, I would like to welcome to our platform this evening a lady who is a phenomenal leadership speaker. She's an author, she's a book coach. She's helping other leaders to overcome the feeling of overwhelm, where we often sabotage ourselves and where we often get stuck. She's that little bit of a push, that one that actually helps leaders to push through and to get to where they want to be and be the person they can be. So she's also a very accomplished speaker, and I will share with you a little bit more about her ins and outs. She's a mother. She's a husband. She's a wife, and she's on the platform this evening to talk to us about a very important concept I think all of us need to do at some stage and maybe consider at some stage in our life. And she's also the author of an incredible program called Write, Earn, and Earn. So without any further ado, I would like to welcome to the call this evening Kim Vermaak. Good evening, Kim. Welcome to Momentum. Welcome to IC Help International. We're really excited to have you on board here, and thank you very much for accepting our invite.
Super. Thank you, Gideon, so much for inviting me. And welcome to everyone. So what I'm going to ask is those people who are able to put their camera on, please do. If you can't, if you've got bandwidth issues, that's fine. But part of writing is being able to connect with people. And so it really helps me if I can get visual feedback during the presentation. The first thing that I'm going to ask you to do is just to step into the room. And the reason that I'm going to do that is we all work in the mental health space, and sometimes we carry a lot of things that happened during the day, and that can make us feel, a little bit overwhelmed. We're not decompressing and that kind of thing, and we do need to take care of ourselves. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm just going to ask you to sit with the straight back, your shoulders back, and then I'm going to ask us to just do a little bit of breathing so that we can center ourselves and stay in the room, okay? I like to use the box breathing technique. For those of you who are not familiar with it, I'm just going to talk you through it. And for those of you who are, you can just follow through. So box breathing is often used by people in high intensity situations like firefighters and that kind of thing, where they've got to keep their wits about them and they've got to be able to relax themselves and think clearly. And writing is very much a space where you're going to think clearly. So box breathing means that we're going to breathe in for the count of 4. We're going to hold for the count of 4, breathe out for the count of 4, and hold again. And we're going to do 2 of those cycles. I would generally do this for longer, but in this particular situation, we've got a lot of stuff that we've got to get through. And so I just want you to be present and inside your body and let go of what's happened during the day. Okay, so we breathe in, and when I say breathe in, I want you to breathe with your belly, not with your lungs. We're not in the Middle Ages where we had corsets and we couldn't breathe. You breathe through your belly, not through your chest. And when I ask you to breathe in, I want you to breathe in as much air as possible. And when I ask you to breathe out, I want you to breathe all the way out, that it feels like there's no air left. Okay, we're good to go. All right. And on the count of 3, 3, 2, 1, breathe in. 2, 3, 4, hold. 2, 3, 4, out. 2, 3, 4, hold. 2, 3, 4. Big lungs in. 2, 3, 4, hold. 2, 3, 4, out. 2, 3, 4, and in. 2, 3, hold. 2, 3, 4. Great, and you can breathe again. Okay, so I would really encourage you to do this at the end of the day, beginning of the day, times when clients overwhelm you, times where billing is overwhelming you, and times when you've got to write. Okay, super. So I'm going to share the screen, Gideon, if that's okay
Yes.
with you. Let's go. I think I might have something open that's not supposed to be open, so let's just take that away quickly. And oops, I think I still have something open that shouldn't be open. Oh, there you go. It's this picture. Okay. Okay, that should be working. I just love the tech part. It's just like. Now that's strange. My screen just disappeared. Interesting.
No problems. Do you want me to share for you?
Yes, if you can do that, that would be great.
100%.
See, Gideon, this is why we do this beforehand. So
Absolutely. Absolutely.
So when the tech issues come, then we know what we're going to do. Okay, so let's just go back to the first slide, the opening slide, so that we can just process what that is.
Here we go.
All right. So this evening we're going to be talking about clarifying the book that you're meant to write. And a lot of people, when they come into my programs, then they'll say they just want to write a book. What we want to do is we want to give ourselves direction and clarity, because there's a whole bunch of things that happen in life. And if you're just going to be regurgitating every single thing that's going to happen to you in life on this book, it's actually not going to have your niche market. So, Hidden, would you mind doing the next slide for me, please? Okay, so the first thing that we're going to work on is we're going to work on knowing who your ideal reader is. And if you are thinking, if you use these words, anyone or everyone, then you haven't defined your ideal reader. So why is this going to help us? When you go onto Google or you go onto Amazon and you're trying to solve a problem, you are asking for a very specific thing. So it could be dry cleaners who are in Midrand, car mechanics who are in Longabon. It could be, I want to dye my cat's hair purple. There are very specific things that you are looking for. And so when we as service providers, when we know specifically what people are looking for, it changes our messaging a lot. So I'm going to give it to you from a car perspective, because cars are something that everyone either drives, or they've been in a car, or they've seen a car. And so if I was a car mechanic and I wanted to advertise my services, I could say I work on all kinds of cars, and that means anyone can come to me. Or I could say I work on Volkswagen cars. Now, this means that someone who drives a Volkswagen car can come through to me, and then I've got to change some of my product offerings. Because they're going to be Volkswagen approved, I'm a Volkswagen approved mechanic, I have to say I only use Volkswagen approved products. And the mechanics that I bring into my organization have to have some experience on working with Volkswagens. So if I have someone who is a bicycle mechanic coming and working at my company, then my clients who come and see me to service my cars are going to say, what the heck, what does bicycles even have to do with what we're doing? And so as a mental health practitioner, you are in the same boat. You might be a generalist, you might see a whole bunch of different kinds of people, but if you can say, I work with married couples who are exiting their marriage, so they're wanting to get divorced and they want to have an amicable divorce for the children's sake, then you've got a big niche. And I think that a lot of people would like something like that because they know that the marriage has come to an end, but they are really worried about the impact that it's going to have on their kids, and they don't want to play the blame game and start destroying the other person. They just want to amicably move on with their lives. Now, if I was going to get divorced, I would want to go to that kind of person because I've got children. And that means that all the stories that therapist is going to share with me have to speak to that. So if it is the kind of therapist that has dealt with gender-based violence, that person might be prejudiced against my husband. And I wouldn't be prejudiced against my husband. I just know I don't want to be in there. So that kind of therapist stories that they would write would be very, very different to someone who wants to have an amicable divorce. So can you see how knowing specifically who you're working with is going to help you?
Yes.
Okay. I would like to ask if people can put in the chat box if you've got a speciality on what you work with, that I can just get a feel for the room. If I don't get it, then I'm going to assume you don't have specialities, but I would like to hear from some people who have got a speciality. Going once, going twice. Okay. So the next thing that we also have to know about helping with we've got security, lovely. When I work with single ladies trying to be ready to get into a relationship, I like that. That's a really good one. Anyone else? 3D animation. Okay. Anyone else? So it looks like some people are writing for their own personal self, and they're not necessarily in the self-care or in the therapy space of things. Is that correct? Okay, so that's good, because when you are writing your own book, when you're writing a memoir, or maybe you're writing fiction, then you also need to know who your ideal reader is. So I write nonfiction and I write fiction. My fiction books are medieval fantasy, and they are written for young adults. So if you had to describe my books, I would say they are like Game of Thrones without the sex and without the gratuitous violence. And that means that a certain kind of reader would read my books. Someone who likes adventure and fantasy, but they don't want to have the things that are morally a bit dodgy. So you can see then that the kind of stories that I've got to write have got to align that. If you're writing a memoir, you've also got to say who is your ideal reader for your memoir. So I've had 2 clients with me that have written memoirs, and they're both business people. And so the stories that they write align with other business people. One of my clients had an internal fraud in her company, and when we had the book launch, a whole bunch of people raised up their hands and said, how did you get over the fraud situation? Because my company is going through that right now. So it resonated with them. So again, it's not just about the writing, it is about the marketing, the messages that you're going to send out about your book. You have to have that very specific person in mind so that it all works together. We also have skills development facilitator and helping women break free from bondage. So there's a big variety going on over here. Right, Gideon, can I ask you to just move on to the next slide, please?
Yes.
Okay, so now we've got to ask ourselves, thank you very much. We've got to ask ourselves what keeps them awake at night. So if you think about the clients that you're working with, whether you're a therapist or not, what would keep your clients awake at night? If you can put that into the chat box that I can get a feel for that. So for me, I used to suffer from insomnia quite badly. And there were a whole bunch of ruminating thoughts that I had. So I had quite a troublesome relationship with my mom. And that would be like playing over and over again in my mind, those ruminating thoughts. Plus, I was in a career that was really, really high pressure. And I had clients that really just treated me like I was just a means to an end, and they didn't connect with me personally. And so those kinds of things would keep me up, like what is the deadline? Are we going to make target? You know, those kinds of things. So when you know what those problems are for your client, then that's going to make your book targeted towards something special that needs to be taken care of. So let's say, for argument's sake, if women are involved in really toxic relationships, you might wake up in the middle of the night and think, I just need to get out of here, but I don't know how. This guy is going to find me. I've heard the statistics about women who get killed after they leave their partner. How am I even going to make this happen? And if it's the kind of relationship where one partner is financially dominant over another partner, then you would say, I can't even earn a living. I don't even know how to get out of here. How does that person even begin to think about making those changes? You know, if you're working from a skills perspective, the thing that might keep you awake at night is, you know, does the company even, are they even willing to pay for the programs? Do the people who get sent, do they even care? I did an emotional intelligence course last week, and we had 3 different teams there, and there wasn't a single team leader there at all, not one, which was very sad because the emotional intelligence would have worked very nicely if we had both the team leader and the team involved in there. So those kinds of things, when you know what their problem is, then it's going to just work with your story as well. Gideon, can you just pass on to the next slide, please?
Sure.
Thank you. Okay, so let's talk a little bit about your reader's transformation. Now, did everyone bring a notebook? Because we did ask for notebooks. Do you have a notebook
Yes.
and pen? Yes. Yes. Lovely, lovely. I'm going to just put my glasses on. When I started writing, I lost my eyesight partially. Okay. So the first thing that I want you to write in your notebook is I want to know what is the core conflict that your character is going to be having. The core conflict. So what we say in writing is we call this the inciting moment. That moment that you know something has got to change. And I want you to look at it as your client's perspective, the person that you're working with, or it could be for you. So what I was saying to Gideon earlier on, and I told this to someone, did I say to you or did I say to the podcast thing? I'm getting a bit confused on who I said what today. But when I was in the corporate gifting industry, I was working really, really long hours, and it was completely unreasonable what was being expected of us. So I'm going to put it in perspective. I had a client that was organizing an international conference in South Africa where presidents of the country were coming into the country. Now, that's not the kind of conference that you organize in 2 weeks.
No.
Plan that well in advance because presidents have to look at their diary and plan sometimes a year, 2 years in advance. We got the deposit to do this job on the Saturday, which I couldn't do anything with that deposit at that point, and I had to go and buy stock, and then we had to brand it. We had to put the logos on all of these items, and there were 350 delegates that were going to be at this conference.
Sure.
So we got the deposit on the Saturday, and then on the Monday we went to go pick up the stock, and we had to deliver the items on the Tuesday morning at about 6 o'clock in the morning. It was a really, really tight deadline. Preceding that, by doing the quote, I had gotten a terrible bladder infection. I got the bladder infection because I wasn't drinking water. And I was sweating. I was literally sweating as I was doing the quote. And my daughter said to me, "Mom, you're so sick. You need to go to bed." And I said, this client needs her quote. She used to spend about 1.4 million Rand a year with us on corporate gifting. And so I kind of felt like owned by the client. And because she took up so much of our time, we didn't have another strong enough client to replace that. So I worked through that bladder infection. And then on the morning when we dropped off the stock, we'd been packing until 2 o'clock in the morning. My kids were actually alone at home. My daughter had barricaded the door with a telescope. And my husband took me back home at 2, and then he went back down to the factory to pack. And then he arrived an hour later on the Tuesday, and I had this customer screaming at me, telling me that I made her look unprofessional. And from my perspective, I'm thinking to myself, I am sweating blood for you. You planned this late, and now you're screaming at me. It was my inciting moment that made me realize I didn't want to be in this industry anymore. And a lot of your clients that come through to you, they are going to have that thing, that inciting moment that says, I don't want to do this anymore. I don't want to be in this place anymore. You might be struggling with that in your own business. It might be that the receiver revenue is coming after you because you haven't done your bookkeeping properly. And then you have to say, I used to do all my own bookkeeping, but I cannot do that anymore. I need to grow my business. I need to find a way to get someone else to work from the accounting perspective for me. So write down right now what that inciting moment is for your client or for yourself if you're writing a book. And if you are writing a fiction book, you also have to have that inciting moment. In my medieval fantasy series, the inciting moment was when a girl wakes up and a dragon is burning down the village. That makes you realize you've got to do something. Okay, so I now want to know the before snapshot. Before you decide you're going to take action, what does your life look like? What does your patient's life look like? What does your character's life look like? And what is that thing that's keeping them stuck there? Now, if we have a look at it, like, let's say from a security perspective, let's say there's been a lot of break-ins, even though there has been, even though there's security on the premises, there's still these break-ins that are happening. But why would someone want to change from one security company to the next? And if they do want to change, why are they staying with the old company? Is there too much paperwork involved in changing over? Are they stuck in a contract? Are there going to be penalties if they exit the contract? Do they know that there's some kind of syndicate working with the current security company that's threatening them? Last year, there was a lady that we heard about who was kidnapped. And then the kidnapper sent out the ransom stuff, and the security guards or the security company said they'll only negotiate with us. And that makes me think, why are they only negotiating with you? I kind of feel like you're in on it. But, and they said this happens on a regular basis, that someone just gets, and the person who got kidnapped as she got out of her car in her own driveway, which tells me something. It tells me it could be an insider job. So we want to look at those kinds of things. What is keeping you stuck in the place that you're in at the moment? Okay, now we also have to look at language. The kind of language that you're going to use is going to be specific to that problem. So when I was in the corporate gifting industry, if I used the words paint tone, people automatically knew that paint tone was associated with the color.
Yes.
If I'm speaking to someone else who's never had any branding experience, they're going to say, what the heck is a paint tone? So you have to understand that when you're writing, you've got to say, that person, am I writing for a group of therapists? If I am, then I can throw away around things like NLP and stuff like that. And they're going to like, yes, I understand that. But if I'm speaking to someone who wants to change their life, they've never been to a therapist, their medical aid is not going to cover any of that kind of stuff, and they want to look for a solution that's just going to help them at home and to navigate some kind of problem that they're experiencing, then you're not going to be able to use language like that, because it's just going to disorientate them. They might get bored and disengage. If they're really struggling with self-esteem issues, your highfalutin words that everyone else thinks is normal, they are going to feel that condemned, that they may be stupid, that they don't understand this book. So we have to use accessible language that is related to the industry that we are working in. Okay. Then we're going to look at the resistance factor. So I did mention this beforehand, but it's going to come up again. Why would you not want to take action in the area that you want to? So I'm going to use a little bit of my own life from a psychology perspective. I'm adopted, and I have got 3 siblings. Yes, 3 siblings, 1 older sibling and 2 younger siblings that I have not seen in decades. So I got adopted when I was in grade 8. I've been in foster care with the same family for a long time. So I didn't get to spend time with my siblings. I was kept separate from them. And when the adoption hearing came through, my biological father jumped up, he slammed his hand on the desk, and he says, it's money that's talking here. Because I got adopted into a socioeconomic group that was slightly higher than where my biological parents were. And so there was this resentment that came over. For the longest time, I had issues with money. And that was because I saw that money was a hateful thing, that people would hate me if I was affluent. So I'm asking you to write down, what is that thing, that self-limiting belief, or it could be a person that's stopping you from moving forward, stopping your client from moving forward. And some of you already know this stuff because you're sitting and talking to people about it. But writing it in your book is very different. Very often we have imposter syndrome. And so we are experienced. We do know what we're doing. But now all of a sudden, when we want to put it out into the world, we're like, is someone going to think I'm an idiot? You know, I'm in my comfort zone now. Everyone thinks I'm great. And I've got some clients who are coming back to me again and again. That's extra income that we know we can rely on. But now, what if I put out a book and it tanks? And then people are going to say, oh, maybe you're not so good after all, because it's terrible. So we all have that feeling. Even extremely educated people, extremely affluent people, extremely brilliant people, they have that problem. And here's a little hint that I often tell my clients. You can always edit rubbish. You can't edit nothing. So just start. Okay, so next up, we're going to be looking at your relatability bridge. So you have a moment in your life that you've been there. You might not have had exactly the same experience as your client, but you might have had something in your life that has propelled you to be in this space where you are sharing and helping other people. And that moment makes you relatable. So think about, what is it about you that when your clients speak to you, you can say, I feel that. Okay, so I'm going to ask you to now go to a dark valley. The dark valley is this big hole that we've got in here that someone's got to climb out. I want you to think about the darkest time that you like, I don't think I'm ever going to get out of this. And if you are feeling okay about it, I'd like one or two people, if they can possibly just raise their hand and then tell us about that really dark time, because I'd like us to learn from each other. So you can make it a little less dark if it's super personal, but I would like us to share, or alternatively, you could share something that a client has recently gone through, something where you think, oh my word, like, I don't even think I know how to help them. So, Gideon, if you could just stick to 3 people.
Sure.
Okay, can someone give us a raise of a hand that we can see the dark story?
Yeah, guys, you guys are here, so you might as well participate. I don't want to put any pressure on anyone, but we would really like to hear from maybe a dark place that some of you were in, and so that we can unpack that a little bit and maybe use that as an example, if that's okay with you. Kim, if we don't get any takers, then I'm happy to share my story and what happened to me, but I know everybody on the call already know that, so maybe it's good if we use someone else.
Super. Okay, if no one raises their hand, I'm going to tell you a little story that I'm busy writing about in my book while we wait for any participants. So because I'm adopted, I had foster care for all of this time. And for a season, my biological family used to get train ticket licenses, or train tickets from the social welfare. And then they would be able to come through to whatever city we were staying in. My adopted father moved around a lot for work. And so the one day, we were staying in Port Elizabeth in Sunridge Park. I was round about 6 years old, and my dad came through and he said to me, your biological family has asked if you can go for a visit to them in Cape Town. And so I'm like, I have these little fantasies of like, maybe it would be great to like see them, see my sister, because at that point I only had one sister. And I've got these little thoughts that are going in my mind. And then my dad says to me, you are so welcome to go, but just understand that if you do go, you may never step foot back in this house.
Jeez.
And so I feel a little bit tearful, but I actually forgot about that memory. I forgot about it until I started writing this book on postpartum depression. And at the time, I thought to myself, oh my goodness, I feel there's a raised hand. So we'll go straight on to that after I finish this story. I went through this experience, and then I realized that I had been physically abused and I had been abandoned, and my dad was trying to protect me. So he used this fear thing, but he didn't really understand what impact it would have over me over the long run. And so I had to work through that space. Let's hear from our participants.
It's Kenny. Kenny, please unmute yourself and please share with us.
Hi, everyone. I hope everyone had a good day. So I think with my thing, I wouldn't say I'm completely over it because I'm still working through it, but I'd like to think that I'm mostly over it. But a tough thing that I had to go through growing up, my parents got a divorce when I was separated when I was 7, but divorced when I was 10. And for the longest time in my life, until probably 5 years ago, I was having a very hard time dealing with it, and it was affecting my self-esteem amongst other things. So like that's basically a hard thing that I had to kind of work through and kind of reparent myself in the perspective of my father, if that makes sense, and kind of get over it and take the cards that I was dealt with and just, move on with life and stuff.
Thank you for sharing. Yeah, we don't always realize what these things do to us. And when you're writing a book, so in your case, if I was your book coach, I would have been saying to you, there are a lot of kids that have gone through that process, and some of them are still stuck inside the trauma and their self-esteem and that kind of thing. And so when you have a story like that and you can be vulnerable about it, it just gives people a space where they're like, oh, so I'm not weird for feeling this way. There isn't something wrong with me. This is a normal trauma response. And until I am able to work through that trauma, it's probably going to be holding me back a lot. Now, you have a beautiful story because you can plot out what we call the transformation map. So you can say from your life, what were the things that one was like, it was your inciting moment. It could be, oh, I'm really struggling with relationships and I realize it's related to this thing. And then what were you going to do about it? Was there like, I'm going to go for therapy, or I'm going to be involved with a support group, or I'm going to start taking better care of myself? There was some kind of a transformation map that you can plot for other people. And when they see that, there's sometimes you go to coaches and then they say, if you can imagine what the next steps would be, what would that be? Now, in certain circumstances, that's a really good thing. But in other times, when you are so overwhelmed that your creativity is actually being blocked, that you can't actually imagine what the next steps would be. It's like physically impossible. It's like your creativity is being cemented to the same spot. Then you need someone who will plot out a map for you and say, like a GPS, turn left, turn right, go this way. It gives them a framework to work with. Okay, and then of course the last thing is your unique edge. So if you take all the books you've read, all the webinars you've attended, all of those kinds of things, and you say, I love that part, but this is unique to me. This is the way I do things. That means that there are other people who are going to be like that. So, I say it's like a piano. You might think a whole bunch of other people have got this problem. What makes me unique? What makes a song unique on a piano? Every piano's got exactly the same amount of white keys, exactly the same number of black keys. They're exactly the same. But the person playing the piano will choose a combination of keys in a special way that makes it unique to them. So every single person in this room has got a unique number of experiences that blend together to make your transformation map.
Sure.
Okay, Hiran, I'm going to ask you to move to the next slide. We are going to do a prompting exercise.
Well, before we get to the next slide, Kim, I want to see some show of hands, some thumbs up, some streamers going. Anybody still awake? Is everybody still there? Put your hands in the air and yeah, there we go. Good. Fantastic. Fantastic. Right. Let's go to the next slide.
So this is where your writing is going to kick in. This is a writing prompt. I use it a lot at my writers' retreats. And it's in the book. I specifically wrote a book about writing prompts. So a lot of people feel blocked and they just want to have a starting point. So I'm going to read this prompt to you twice. I'm going to read it the first time, then I'm going to read the second time that we can break it down. And then what we're going to do after that, you're going to have 5 minutes after this to actually continue writing from this piece. So this is how the writing prompt is going to work. Sarah grips the kitchen counter, her jaw locked, as the baby's crying pierces the house without pause. Her son paces the hallway, shaking his head, fists thudding against his temple as his routine breaks. Low guttural grunts tear from his throat. Sarah picks up the phone. Honey, I can't come home yet, her husband texts. She knows his work is unstable and jobs are on the line, but knowing this doesn't help her. Sarah takes a shaky breath, telling herself she must pull it together. This day cannot be the one where she falls apart. So we're going to unpack this story a little bit so that we can get to understand what it's all about. So Sarah gripping the kitchen counter. This is what we call show, don't tell. I can tell you that she was scared or frustrated, but if you say she grips the counter, what does that bring up in your mind?
She resists.
Yes, her jaw is locked. So think about it. If you were a therapist sitting with a person in their office, you see visible clues that they're stressed because sometimes they're not ready to open up and tell you what the problem is. You see it in their body. As the baby's crying pierces, which means it's like that kind of crying, like, oh my word, if this child doesn't stop crying, I'm going to murder it. It goes without pause. It means it's constantly, it's wearing down on her. Her son paces the hallway, shaking his head, fists thudding against his temples as his routine breaks, and low guttural grunts tear from his throat. What do you think this child is suffering with? Anyone want to give it a go? Type it in the chat box.
Kim, I think they've got writer's block this evening. There's usually a ton of responses, so I'm sure you're gonna warm them up just now.
We've got colic. Colic is good because the baby's probably got colic. Autism is a very, very good answer because you can see that this child cannot articulate properly. So that is a really good answer. Colic, definitely a good answer. Sarah picks up the phone. Honey, I can't come home yet. Her husband texts. She knows his work is unstable and jobs are on the line, but knowing it does not help her. And I think, Gideon, because I know that you work with couples, sometimes, even though we know our partner is struggling with something, there's still resentment. It could be that she feels abandoned in this situation. He probably thinks, if I go home now, I'm going to get fired, and then we can't do formula and nappies. So they're in that kind of wrestle where they're caring about each other. He doesn't just say, I can't come home yet. He says, honey. Honey is the word that shows that there is caring between these two people. And he knows what she needs. He just cannot offer it to her right now. Sarah takes a shaky breath. It's like it's just too much for her, telling her that she must pull it together. This day cannot be the one where she falls apart. Okay, I've been taking way too long on this thing because I see our time is almost up. So I'm going to give you your 5 minutes to write. You're going to write from your perspective. So if I was writing this, because I work with postpartum depression, I would want to say, Oh my word, I'm falling apart over here. I don't think he realizes how bad it is. I don't even know if I can go back to work. My career is probably over. I'm a useless mother. Now, if you were writing it from a security perspective, you might say the security guard pulled up into the doorway, pounded on the door, and said, "Ma'am, are you okay?" Okay, so with the helping to break free from bondages, it could be like he says, "Honey, I can't come home," but I know that when he comes back, he's probably going to start laying into me because I couldn't keep the baby quiet and I was bothering him at work. So you see, there can be lots of different outcomes for the story. So I'm going to keep quiet now, and I'm going to let you take your 5 minutes to write. Gideon, you still have 3 more minutes if you want to write some more.
I'm going to need more than a prompt to get rid of the writer's block.
Generally, when we do this, I do a writing once a month for my clients. They get 15 minutes to do the writing prompt, but today we're just doing that quickly.
Yes. I realized the moment you said 5 minutes, I was like, oh my soul, there was no way I'm going to do anything in 5 minutes. I need to get rid of the
It's a
block.
self-limiting belief. Okay, and our 3 minutes is over. 3 minutes, sorry, 5 minutes. Okay, can you just move to the next slide for me, please?
Sure.
Thank you. So the exercise that you just did is a little bit of an exercise in emotional intelligence, being able to recognize what emotions look like. So when we're writing, we describe what we see so that the reader can feel it. So if we look at these 3 pictures over here, the first lady who's crying, her head is moved forward and downwards. She's holding her face. Her eyes are closed. She's in the shadows, which doesn't really say much about her position, but definitely we're looking for slouched shoulders. And even if you're writing fiction, this is going to be very helpful to you. The 2 happy people, they have got big, their shoulders are back, they've got more stretched out, they're taking more space. The guy that's at the bottom, you can see the furrows in his brow. You can see the kind of snarly lips that he's got. He's obviously very frustrated, or he's hearing something awful. So if you want to, just put into the chat box what you see, just one word about what you see, what emotions you think you can see. Sad, happy, frustrated. Good. Very good. Anyone else want to say something? Emotions are very complex. They're not always just one thing. It can be a whole bunch of things. Sometimes you could be crying from anger. You're so angry that you can't express it, and so you just cry. Ashamed, engaging, frustrated. Very good. Someone else want to give a bash? Anger, sadness, joy. Very good. I really like these answers. So you see, we're using those visible clues. No hope, happy, frustration. Very good. Unhappy, we're winning. Lovely, lovely. Okay, so I think the writer's block is disappearing a little bit. Okay, excellent. Hidden, can you move on to the next slide for me, please?
Sure.
Now, every book has to have a bit of a mission statement based on who you are going to help. So we basically at the end, so if you can write, if anyone is okay with staying on a little bit longer, I will be here for you if you need it.
No problem.
But if you can write your mission statement for your book, and this is really our second last slide, the book I'm meant to write is for. Now, who that ideal reader is that we discovered, and don't worry if you don't know who that person is yet. There is a free download that I've put together, which Gideon will let you have, and that has got a whole bunch of information, more stuff than what we actually covered in here, and you can work through the workbook and you can come up with some of these things yourself. So the book I'm meant to write for is this person. For me, with my postpartum depression book that I'm writing, for me, it is professional women who are high functioning but are facing debilitating postpartum depression and who feel isolated, and for their families that want to help them but don't know how. And so I will help them. And what is the transformation that you are going to bring for that person? Restoring their marriage, restoring their self-esteem, getting rid of toxic relationships without feeling guilty about it, getting a better security system so that people can feel safe. Okay, so once you've got that, then that is you're going to be able to loop back to the beginning, because sometimes people start with this and sometimes they start the other way around. And this is going to change the kinds of stories that you're going to write. Okay. So Gideon, if you just move to the next slide for me, please. All right. So this is me, Kim Vermaak. I put this thing in here because the women of stature people have said that if we don't use this logo, we're going to be in trouble. It's a fixed adjudication. So there it is. I've been nominated for the Women of Stature in coaching and mentoring, and so I'm just giving it out there so that they know that I did it. And so, Gideon, if you could maybe take a screenshot for me.
Yes.
That I can prove to the Women of Stature that I use their logo.
Of course. And can we vote for you?
I don't know if there's a voting thing. I didn't go into the public choice thingy, but definitely I can send it to them. Okay, so you can connect with me on LinkedIn. That is generally my preferred form of communication. You can send me questions that you have about writing. If you ever want to have me come back for a proper writing prompt session, I'm very happy to do that. And if there are no questions, then I'd like to say thank you so much for having me here today.
Wow. Kim, I'm pretty sure there are a few questions, so I'm going to ask if there's anybody who wants to maybe ask a question, maybe make a comment, maybe put it in the chat box, or just unmute yourself, raise your hand. Okay, fantastic. Well, I don't know if they've all got stage fright this evening because of your incredible presence in our midst this evening, Kim. But I want to say, from all of us here, this was really, really insightful. I know this is very much just the basic framework of what it takes to write a book. And you've just given us a little bit of an insight of what we need to do to get that done. We obviously need to connect with someone that can help us to do that and take it to the next level. So Bridget says, powerful presentation. Just skimmed the surface. Would love to experience more. Yes, Kathy says, thank you so much for tonight, Kim and Gideon. Fantastic. And Henry says he's emotionally tired. All right. Okay, that's probably from the previous slide. Okay, fantastic. All right. Well, Kim, thank you so much. I will share the guide that you actually put together for all of us with everyone on the group. So if people can just please reach out to me. If there's anyone that's really serious about taking this to the next level, they're welcome to be in contact with me, and I will share the guide with them. And wow, Kim, thank you so much for spending the evening with us. Thank you for putting time aside. I know this is not the last time we're going to see you, and most certainly we're going to have you back pretty soon with some exciting announcements to be made in the weeks to come. So Kim, thank you very much from me, from everyone here. I want to say thank you. And to everyone that tuned in here this evening, thanks for spending the hour with us. If you have any questions, you're more than welcome to connect with me. And as always, I'll see you next week, Thursday, 7 o'clock, same time, same place. Until next week, I will look after me for you. Will you please look after you for me and all of us? Thank you so much, Kim. Have a wonderful, wonderful evening. Thank you so much, everyone. Take care.